Hi, girlies. Welcome to Book Please podcast. We're so excited to be back for another episode. I have my girlies with me.
Hi, it's Nathan.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda.
So happy to be here with my girlies. I have to tell you guys, I did share before with, of course, my girlies, but I was having such a rough week this past week, like just one thing on top of the other.
I get that.
I will say it was so funny how sometimes it's like the universe is like talking to you. I was in the market, and of course, like you're going in for one thing, and I'm like, okay, I don't need a cart, I don't need a basket, I'm good. And I go in there and I end up with 10 things in my hands. And I am dropping things, like literally. So I finally,
always do that.
I know, like, what am I doing? So I finally get online and I'm standing there, and there's one like older gentleman in front of me, and he sees me like maneuvering all this stuff to hold it until it's my turn. And he's like, "Hi, miss, would you like me to get you a basket?" Like just another customer online. And I was like, "No, it's okay. I got this far. Like I'm almost there." And he's like, "Okay." And then he turns around again and he says, "Miss, why don't you go in front of me? Go ahead. You can just go like put your stuff on the belt." And I was like, "Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you so much." And he's like, "I just want to let you know, like, I have now offered you help in two different ways." And he's like a grandfather, and he was like
Aw.
preaching like a fable. Like it was so sweet. He's like, "I've offered you help in two different ways, and you haven't taken it. And one thing that I've learned in my life is when somebody is there and like is just extending a hand, you take it." And he's like, "It's okay to ask for help. We're all human. We all go through things. And even something so little, just take it. Go ahead, go in front of me." And I was like, "Thank you so much."
I would have
And
broke down. I would have been
I
like,
was
what just
ready
happened?
to. And he was like, "It just means that somebody's looking out for you. And that's a good thing." And he's like, "Someone's always going to be looking out for you." And I was so emotional. I was like,
Super
"Not right
sweet.
now." Right?
Oh,
Like after the
it gives
week
me
I
hope for
had to.
humanity. I feel like it's nice to know there's good people out there.
Yes. And it's kind of like those acts of kindness things that we were talking about before. And it's like I really needed it, but it was almost like so much deeper for me at the time that it came. And I was like, wow, like that was the sweetest thing ever.
I have a story that's not as, it's like kind of similar because I was shopping, but it's not as cute as yours. But I was at the grocery store and this guy in front of me like bought his food, paid for it, and then just like walked out of the store. Like didn't take his bags, like nothing.
Oh
And then
my,
I was like flustered. I was like, okay, maybe I can go find him. Like maybe I can bring it. But then he walks back in and he's like, of course I forget that I came here for something.
Oh my gosh.
And mind you, it wasn't like he bought one thing. He had like two bags. And then when I left, I saw him outside. He was like, "Oh my God, they almost gave you my groceries." I said, "No, I was actually gonna come look for you and try and bring them to you."
Wow.
And then he's like, "Oh, that's super sweet."
I've done that where like I've totally paid for something like food or something. And then I'm like, I pay and I forget to wait for it. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Oh my goodness. I can't say that's ever happened to me.
I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever forgotten anything.
Yeah, like when you're just, oh, I just feel like sometimes I have a lot on my mind and I'm like, oh my God, what an idiot.
And when you brought up how did you end up cutting that guy in line then?
Yes,
He let you go
he
before
let
him?
me.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like that happens often to me. Like I have one thing and the person in front of me has 10 things, then they're like, oh, go ahead in front of me, or vice versa. If I see
Yes.
somebody, I always say, just go. And everybody usually
Mhm.
appreciates it so much. And it's such
Yeah.
a small thing, you know, it really means nothing, but it's a huge act of kindness.
It changed my whole day. And it's funny because I have done that for others too, but
Mhm.
it's like I can't accept it, but we're working on it. I did go ahead of him. And then I was like, God bless you. Have a great day.
I honestly would have been just like you. I would have been like, "No, it's okay. I should have got a
It was
basket."
like a wise grandfather. Like,
Do you guys feel like when someone lets you go in front of them and before you leave, you have to say thank you 100 times, like make eye contact
You have
and say thank you and
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you so much? Because it's major. It's like huge that someone would let you go in front of them.
yes, I agree. Or like, even if like, you know, there's gentlemen that will hold the door open, even if you're really far. And I feel like I have to sprint to the door or whatever. And they're like, relax, just
Yeah, I always do that when someone's holding the door from afar. I feel like I have to go from walking normally to running.
I'm like, well, now you just started a race.
I purposely don't look behind me when I open the door because if they are far, I have to wait. I feel bad. I'm like,
oh
okay,
yes,
now I have to.
100%.
So you just don't make eye contact. If you just walk in, you won't know someone's behind you and you're good.
In other news, though, guys, I am happy that we started this book. Very exciting. I got like, I don't know about you guys, but I got like very like different eras vibes, like Marilyn Monroe. I think not that. Did you say that it was inspired by it's the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo that we're reading, of course, guys. And did you say who was it inspired by?
Yes.
Elizabeth Taylor?
Elizabeth Taylor, because I knew nothing about the book going into reading this, absolutely nothing. And I started kind of briefly Googling it.
Actually,
and it's
same. Yeah.
And it's loosely based on Elizabeth Taylor. You would think Marilyn Monroe, but no.
I know. I just got the vibes because of like the power of the woman. I didn't actually know what it was about either, just that it was highly recommended. But sometimes it's nice to kind of go in and just like not have any spoilers. But I know it made us like have a conversation kind of about like decades and things like that.
I couldn't stop thinking about the 90s, like the early 90s, almost like the late 80s, early 90s, middle 90s. That was my favorite decade. Like if I could be in my middle 20s and the beginning of the 90s, that would be ideal for me.
Yeah.
Because I am a 90s baby. We're all 90s babies.
What do you specifically like about the 90s?
Oh, I have an entire spreadsheet of 90s stuff. So, okay, I have some fun facts though that I thought would be cute to share that you're going to be like, oh my God.
Okay.
So the average income in the 1990s was $29,000. Can you imagine making $29,000? You'd be living like in a hostel. You probably couldn't afford a hostel.
I probably would have a house during that time.
No, I mean now having a $29,000 salary, forget it.
Like, no, unlivable.
And then the price of a new car was $16,000.
Oh my God!
Yes, a gallon of gas $1.22. Like times were so much different back then. Yeah, good night and good day.
Inflation.
But so fashion and style, I love the puffy sleeves, leopard print, absolutely obsessed.
Oh my gosh, so Jersey queen.
Matching tracksuits. You know how everyone wore those matching,
the velour, the juicy velour was my life.
Love that. Layers in the hair, like were huge.
Yes,
back then. And I've been trying to
get coming back. It's coming back.
It is. Then I have for music, Mariah Carey. Love Mariah Carey. Britney Spears. Loved Oops, I Did It Again. Was like, anthem of my life. TLC. Destiny's Child.
We have so many similar ones.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Our movies and shows won't be, though. No. I guarantee it. So movies, Goodfellas, Bronx Tale, Titanic.
And classics. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Deep Blue Sea. Have you guys ever watched Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, but it's not my
I loved it.
Jam.
And then shows, top show of all time. You already know what I'm going to say. Sopranos.
Yes, girl.
King of Queens. And The Nanny. I love The Nanny.
Oh my gosh, The Nanny. The Nanny named Fran.
Fran Fine is an icon, like fashion icon. The things that she would say.
Nice,
yeah, that show was just iconic, in my opinion.
Oh, no, it's very popular.
So that's my list.
So I also picked 90s, which is so funny and cute. Like I also didn't mind growing up in the 90s because I will say like just the just you guys, like the butterfly clips, like the fun that we had. I feel like it was the last era that really wasn't so reliant on like tech and social media and all that stuff. Like we didn't
Yes.
grow up like that. Like we had a
Hmm.
childhood, we lived, we played in the dirt. Like that's what it's about. And I feel like it was such a good time. And like just growing up in the 90s, the shows that we had, some of my favorites were like Boy Meets World, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Forgot about Boy
Oh,
Meets
forget
World.
Boy Meets World was my life. Like
Topanga, she
Full
was
House.
Marbles.
Topanga, I wanted to be her.
Full House.
Like
Oh, of course you did, because she was blonde. So
actually, I didn't even. You know what's iconic about her? Her freaking lips. Like her face is so perfect.
yeah, very
That's like what I think
proportional.
about. I don't even think of her as like blonde, but yes.
I forgot about Boy Meets World though. That's
Oh my
iconic.
God. Yeah, and Full House.
Yes,
Full
Full
House.
House.
I would agree with a lot of the artists you said, like Destiny's Child, TLC. I had Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. Like, there's nothing like it. But I also like loved my like Tupac and Biggie era, of course. Like, can't not
Always,
say
yes.
that. But it's
Hmm.
just like even like the Nikes. That's when they started to get hot. Like overalls, you guys. Like, what? Can we just go back?
FUBU.
Wait.
FUBU.
You guys didn't. Oh
You
God.
lost us at FUBU, girl.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
you guys didn't grow up in the Bronx like I did.
What's FUBU? Tell us.
It's a brand. It's the guy from Shark Tank. That's his
just
brand.
kidding. I know what FUBU is.
FUBU. Wait, I gotta look it up.
Oh, God.
They remind me of like Puma vibes, like the way Puma used to be, like the
Oh
puppies.
man.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know where FUBA is. That's funny.
Damon, they are kidding. Damon, they're kidding. They know your brand.
Okay, Baby Fat.
Baby
Oh,
Fat. Yes.
I loved Baby Fat.
And like even
Oh.
J-Lo, I feel like that was like her
Oh
time.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
tracksuits, the hoops, the everything, like our inspo.
Forget it. The
Your
hoops.
girl. Did you guys ever have your poor parents when you took them to Abercrombie or Hollister and they're like, I can't see in here. It stinks.
Hollister.
My dad, it stinks in here because of the perfumes and the, you know, they spray.
Taking foreign parents to Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch, it was like, first of all, this shit's expensive as hell. You're not getting it. Go to the clearance section. Then it was the smell, the loud music. They'd like blast that music. I remember just, it was never my way going into those stores ever.
Because you knew like you just that you were dragging it. My mom, thank God my mom was like kind of with it. Like this poor woman, shout out to you, because she like put up with whatever, but that store was ridiculous. I pass it now and I roll my eyes at my old self.
90s clothing is just not a thing for me. No.
Wait, what's your clothing?
I like today. I like you can wear anything. If you want to wear something that's in the 90s, no one will look at you sideways. They don't care. You can literally wear anything you want today.
Yeah.
Back then, you had to I had to wear that because everyone else was wearing that.
But I feel like today a lot of stuff has come back.
Exactly.
And
inspired.
My mom has always said to me, it's so funny because like I'll love something that's like new and trending, and she's like, "Oh, we always used to wear that." Like I know.
Have you guys ever looked at pictures of like your parents when they're younger?
Yes.
My mom used to wear like brown lip liner with like red lipstick. And I guess maybe that's like in now,
That sounds hot.
but I used to be like, Mom, what is that? But I guess that was like the style back then.
My mom had like a whole perm.
Oh, perm.
Yeah, big hair was huge back then.
Yes.
The bigger,
My
the
mom
better.
was so hot. Ugh. That bitch. And she always says, because like I always am like, oh my God, I'm so thick. I'm always in the gym. I'm always like trying to, you know, whatever, like take care of myself and lose weight like my whole life. And she always tries to relate. And she's like, I know I used to struggle too. Like she says all this shit, right? And then I say, I'll never forget. I'm like at her house that she grew up in. I'm going through photo albums and I'm seeing these bikini pictures. Mom, you know the brown crochet bikini, itsy bitsy. I was like, Mom, don't ever talk to me again. Like I thought we had a sisterhood. I thought we had a camaraderie. I'm like, you don't even like there's nothing on her body. Like she was the perfect body I've ever seen in my life. Do you look at your mom's stuff, not though?
Yeah, but I always admire it just because I'm like, I knew back then too, they didn't have a lot. So whatever they really had not a lot. So whatever they came up with and wore, I knew it meant so much because it took so much to get to that piece of clothing, you know, to work however long she worked or whatever. And she has clothes from 20, 30 years ago. Like, she cherishes the clothes and keeps, you know, ironed and uniformed, where I wear something for a year and it's like, I want to give it away.
I know. I feel the same way. Like, and I used to do that to my mom all the time. Like, we'd buy stuff and then it's like, oh, I'm already ready for something new. And I would feel so bad because I wouldn't want to wear the old stuff anymore.
Yeah.
But my mom has a lot of stuff she used to wear and like her 80s stuff. And now I find myself like going through it. Like, you know how like thank God, the higher waisted cut bikinis are in, which I love that like style. So I've taken some from my mom and
that used to be
I wear
yeah.
them now and I love them. Like, I do wear some of her clothes, or like shoes. We're the same shoe size, which is like such a blessing.
Personally, I love one-piece bathing suits. I think they're classy, they're sexy, like they always make me feel super confident. And I know back then a lot of women wore one pieces. And then I used to think they were not lame, but I would be like, why would I wear a one piece over a two piece? Now I feel like I'm gravitating more towards the one pieces.
They're in though. And like the cutouts, or like the higher cuts, or this like I've seen, or the ones that have like the different ties and things like that. They're so cute.
To me, they're elegant but sexy.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like you guys like gave good examples for your era, and I just like chose an era and that was it. So for clothing style, like no. Clothing style I mentioned I like today because you could do anything. Music, films, I did 80s and 90s. Like 16 can I feel like there's so many classics that I think our movie quality are better than today, but I think for like sci-fi, you know, anything action, the graphics are better now. So I would say I mostly picked like today for like tech stuff, like advanced, like I did like advanced DNA, like, you know, being able to like technology helping people, like social media, don't care about technology in that aspect, but I think I prefer like anything before the 2000s. Like if you had something wrong with you, you know, you didn't have things accessible like you do now.
Yeah.
So I chose that. I went deep, like medically.
No, she's
and
so
research.
She's like,
I know.
The hypochondriac in Amanda cannot imagine going back any time frame where we don't have today's medical advances.
I have to wait how long for blood work? No.
We're like, okay, we're going to look up our decades. And she's like, well, I literally need every piece of evidence and science that has helped us be able to cure everything and know
exactly.
But
I
let's
literally
just also say, like, we are privileged, like thankful to be here, because a lot of other countries don't have what we have. And I feel at least in the aspect of the like being medically safe, like thankful that we have adequate care available.
Definitely.
When I'm in Greece, that's a different story, because on my dad's island with all the goats and stuff, I mean, the most beautiful little tiny island in Greece, but like my cousin cracked a rib when we were there and we went to the hospital and they said, oh, the doctor's on the neighboring island, and we were like, she broke a rib, like you can't, it's just not the same.
Crazy.
And the pharmacy shut down for nap time, like even the pharmacy shut down.
I can't even imagine. See,
Things
that's
you
what
don't
I
think about. I know they shut down like restaurants and things like that because, you know, they value like time for life, and they have like that period in the afternoon for like hours where like businesses shut down, but pharmacies are no exception.
Like think about having to call an ambulance. Like you had to get to like either a payphone or a landline, where now if someone's hurt, it's so easy to like, I just can't imagine the lives saved now than back then.
My mom, when she found out she was pregnant, had to notify my dad via beeper and wait for him to call her back.
Yeah, that was pagers.
Remember sidekicks? Like that was we literally saw technology advance. Sidekicks. My mom never. I wanted one so bad, and she's like, "You're lucky if you get a razor." Like
I had a pink razor.
Me too. Pink razor club for L.
What was that one toy? Was it Skip It? That thing hurt so bad. Like when you would, I used to be scared to hit myself because it would hurt so bad.
Remember
like,
Twister?
Yes,
Can we play Twister?
Do you guys know how to like double dutch? Like,
oh yes.
Oh yeah, we had like the best.
One of my favorite memories was me and my brother like outside playing, and like we would play around the world because we would have like a basketball hoop. in our, like where our garage was, and we would play and then play for money, and then I wouldn't pay him if he won, and he wouldn't pay me, and it'd be like, Mom, he has to pay me, like he said he was going to pay me. I don't know, those memories, like I will just cherish forever.
For sure.
Did you guys ever catch the light flies, the fireflies, or
Yes,
whatever they were
the
called?
lightning bugs.
The lightning bugs, and you would catch
I wanted
them,
to keep
oh,
them.
Cry.
Yeah.
I used to do that like all the time. And my parents used to make it this big thing, like, they're outside. Like, oh my gosh, you guys.
Yeah.
You know what else I miss? I guess it depends where you grow up, but the ice cream truck. Like whenever I would hear it coming down the block, I'd be like, Mom, I need money.
New
My
York
mom would
staple.
never.
Oh, I used to like chase it down.
My brother and I would sprint down the block.
Yes.
Like, girl, go sit at home. Like, go to the gym. What are you doing running, chasing?
Go to the gym, 11-year-old girl. Go to the gym. Don't go for ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
We
Good
had such a good
times, for
childhood.
sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I also think about like our generation too. We were the first that experienced technology. And now these kids, like the stuff they do on social media, I'm like, I was lucky on MySpace if I could make things fall down my page. Like I thought I was a great coder back then.
Oh my gosh.
And now these kids are like, I'm just like,
But that was the start of the toxicity. Remember how MySpace gave you like
Top
a top
8?
eight? Like,
oh, I
that's
did a
so
top
messed
1.
up.
I really let you know I didn't like you.
Oh my god! No, but that's good because then it's like just your best friend. If you have to
Yeah.
order your friends,
Oh, it's
so toxic. Like,
oh yeah.
and then they move you around, and you're like, "What did I do?" Like,
yeah.
And then you could post like a song for your page, and then
Mhm.
people would message you like, "Hey, girl, can I take your song?"
Oh
and then
my
you would
gosh.
hide.
Remember on the phone leaving a message, you would like say, "Hey, this is Amanda, please," and you have music playing on the background. Did you guys ever have that?
Yes.
That is so
Yes.
funny.
BBM. Oh, there's so many things we had that were great.
AOL messaging.
Wow.
Remember your away message? That
It
was
would be like
life.
BRB, BBL,
BBL.
BBL. BRB.
be back later.
No, but that's
Oh,
a very
BBL.
different thing now,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
We could probably talk about this for hours, though. So for
I
the
know.
sake of timing, we probably shouldn't.
You're right, because I will talk about this forever. Let's talk about our book. You guys, we read chapters 1 through 23 of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
So far from what we've read, we learn about 2 of her husbands, Ernie, who she first married when she was, 14, I want to say?
I
Super
think
young?
it was
Like,
14, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
super young. Her dad gave permission, so I guess that was okay back then. And then she ended up leaving him once she started her career. You know, she kind of used him to get to where she was. And then she ended up meeting Harry, I guess, who is her manager. And he basically told her, like, you need to get, divorce that and move on with your career. So then she meets Don, who seems like so charming in the beginning. Like when I first read it, I was like, oh, Don sounds so perfect.
Yes,
Like
so
he has
sad.
his own life. But then we eventually learned that he's like abusive. He's doing his own thing. And while she's doing her career, I feel like each time I kept reading, her career kept getting better. So
Yeah.
she was, winning things. And then she met a friend, Celia, who she became really close with.
Mhm.
So we learn about Monique, who is a writer. And I guess Evelyn chose her. And I have lots of thoughts on why she chose her.
What are your thoughts? Because I have thoughts too. I think that she was with her dad at some point.
See, no, I think that's I think either her daughter or Celia's daughter, because they become really close. So I'm like, she cares about this person too much.
I just got chills all over my body. She might be Celia's daughter.
Yes. I think that's why she wants to help her financially. I think her and Celia chose this photographer and wife to raise the kid. So that's where my head is
Because
going.
they're adjacent, they're in the industry. It makes sense. There's
Mhm.
something. There's some connection. What did you think, Nanda?
Yeah, I don't know, kind of saying what you guys were saying. I think there's definitely some kind of connection there for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't doubt her talent, but I definitely think there's some piece missing that we're going to find out that'll bring it all together. I enjoyed the story. I thought it was creatively done. In the beginning, I was just kind of like, even as a journalist, like I was like, this is kind of like super unrealistic. And then when it kind of makes sense, like as you read more, like you think that there's some other reason. I definitely think that the her company would not, Vivant would not be okay with this. There's no way. But I thought that the book was super well
Do
done.
you think they wouldn't be okay with it because of like the monetary aspect of it? Because they know how much they could get out of it?
It's kind of like a non-compete. Like I can't
Like a
ever
non-compete, exactly.
imagine, like we have contracts that we sign as journalists. Like we can't do that. It's just not realistic. But
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Like you can look past things because it's fiction and it's a book that you're reading. I really liked how she told the story overall,
Hmm.
which was like we're seeing this through the lens of Monique writing it, but then you jump into the story, and then Amanda, I know you listen to it, but if you actually see the print, it's like, not that, did you notice how in the beginning, like I loved like when you first saw like the gossip article and it was like thespill.com and it
Yeah.
showed like the font as if, Amanda, you were reading like a
It
gossip
says Sub
magazine or
Rosa,
like Sub
right?
Rosa,
Like an
yeah.
Sub
old
Rosa.
newspaper
But there
article.
was like, it's like an online article and then you see the comments and everybody, it was to me, it was a sad story. Like
Hmm.
this girl grew up, was taken advantage of, like put herself out there because she thought this was like the way that it was, all the judgment that came with it. Like you saw the comments in the article, like is so true today. Some of the comments like were, oh, she's so beautiful, her eyebrows, her skin, love. Another one was like, how many husbands does she have? Another, it's just all in the comments. I love that the author did it like that. It felt like super real to see. I thought it was super creatively done. I think the stories were interesting. Ernie obviously was like her first step. I did like the mindset of her saying things like, you know, things aren't given to you, you take them. Like you have to
Hmm.
put yourself out there and be open to opportunities. I think the way that she took it, obviously, like we can't really relate to, like she really just did everything that she could. But also
But
this
also like being a little selfish and hurting people along the way
yeah,
as
Oh
well.
yeah, she'll step
yeah,
on
Yeah.
anyone to get to where she is.
Yeah.
yes.
And
So
she says it. Yeah.
And I think it existed in a time too where like the dynamic between men and women was different. And like even still today in Hollywood, the way that women are unfortunately like sexualized,
Or even her husband divorcing her, like the fact that he's able to get her like not with like kicked out of the studio that she was part of.
that just drove me crazy.
I
Like
was like, "Oh, I'm divorcing you and I'm ruining your career."
after being abusive and a cheater, you're the one that's calling the shots and gonna like blacklist her. She can't win an Oscar.
Yep.
All those things. I was like the nerve of this and it was sad because she was like, I actually felt something for this person.
Yeah, she thought it was different. She thought it was like for love. She cared about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I must say, I feel like when I was reading the part about her faking a miscarriage, I was like, now I don't believe anything I hear on the news. This is like, I'm like, now I feel like it made me think about like, is this really what happens? Like, if I hear that, Kim Kardashian, something, I don't know if I'd believe it now because now I feel like, do people play a narrative in Hollywood?
a hundred
I'm just,
percent they
I'm like,
do. You
yeah. So
never
that
get the
like, when
real
that happened, I
story.
was like, I don't
Yeah.
believe anything.
Even recently with Sophia and Joe divorcing, there's 100 reasons as to why online. Like nobody
People's
knows
opinions,
until
yeah.
the two
Hmm.
people. No one knows unless you're the two people involved. Nobody. So anybody could say anything.
That's like the theme of this whole book. It really got me thinking like this book is going to be just like, it's such a power move. And also like when she's dead, it's hilarious because it's like, here, this is the truth.
And this is me.
You guys
Hmm.
speculated on A, B, and C, and this is my life. This is my truth. And it's like, oh, they're talking about this husband, that husband. Like it comes to be that the person that she had that bond with and like that true love with was who started out as her friend ended up being Celia, ended up being a woman. And she's letting out everything about who she really was, all like just in one whole piece. Could you imagine that happening
I
to
don't know how
somebody
it
now,
didn't come
like
to
one of
light.
your big idols, and all of a sudden you just get this like whole autobiography that's
And you
like,
never knew them.
I mean, obviously there's autobiographies out and people are going to control the narrative. But when we're reading this book, it makes it like this is the real truth and I don't care because I'll be dead anyways.
I
And
just
it's
don't know
just
how
so
she didn't get
crazy.
caught. I feel like it's the beginning of the book and we're finding out about her and Celia. And I'm like, how does this not come to light? Like maybe it does and people brush it under. Because then we find out Harry's the same way. So it's just,
It could come out that they were, I don't know. We
I
don't
don't
know
know.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe that's not the point. Maybe that's not the reveal, but I think that
Because Monique had no idea.
I
And
think
she's heard of
it's
her.
not even about, oh, did everybody know about this? I think it's just like everything is such a big deal that she's just being completely raw for the first time. And what
Hmm.
pressure that is for Monique. Like, how would you guys feel if that was like posed to you? Like, would you think it's
Well,
suspicious?
I mean, it was funny when Monique was like, "Oh, so when did you find out you were like a lesbian?" And she's like, "Are you not listening? I'm bisexual." So when that whole part came out, I was just like, Monique like quickly was one track minded, wanting to know who true love was. And,
Yeah.
and then I liked that Evelyn was like, "I'm trying to tell you my truth. You're like not listening. Like this is like
Yeah.
obviously I cared about Don. I did love him, so
Yes.
you're just so that I thought I feel like maybe I would have been like, just like Monique and thought like the same thing.
I love how when Monique came back from her boss Frankie and was like pressing Evelyn, like, I have to get something out there for my publication in order for this to work because you can't just like this is not a reliable thing. This is an amazing thing if it
Hmm.
works out, but you don't know. You could lose everything. So
Hmm.
she's like, look, I have to give something to my boss. And then Evelyn turns to her and says, okay, pick whichever part you want, like the trust in her to she's like just okay, pick whichever section you want to present. I was like that's huge.
And one thing I liked at the end when Evelyn and Monique were talking about negotiating, where Frankie wanted her to be on the cover and then, take photos and all those things. And Evelyn kept saying no. So then Monique learned from her and she says, um, you know, this is what it is, or I won't tell your story. She says, and also I'm learning from the best. So,
Yes,
writing her story, she learned that from her. Like you really need to go after what you want. Don't take any no. And when she did that at the end, I was like, that's just you guys are related somehow.
Hmm.
That's
We'll
what I
find
thought.
out.
I said the same thing. I thought the same thing. I was like she's learning from her, and I loved how in the beginning of the book how she was saying to her, you will fight for the highest bidder of this book.
Hmm.
And she's like, I could easily get like 12 million. Yes, but you won't. You will wait. Like, go and get
Mhm.
what you can, like fight for it. And I was like, oh,
In that moment when I was reading that part, I would have just quit the agency I was working for because I would have trusted that I am going to make. Because really, as a journalist, Alina, doesn't your publication really care about themselves? Like, do you feel like they do individually care about who's coming forth with the article or with the, it's all about how the publication's going to look in the end and how much money they can make. So I would have put all my trust into Evelyn and said, I don't need them. They need me, but I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
But she couldn't quit because she can't release it till she dies. So if she's around for a few more years, she needs a job. Like she's not going to see the money till after.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have been nice for Evelyn to kind of give her an advance though,
Hmm.
that's what
for
I was
her to live
thinking.
She has
off
the
of.
money.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Like, you can't trust to fully, because, like, if you're writing a book and you know what's coming, like, you're set and you don't want to focus on anything else, like,
Hmm.
that's what you're working on. That's your piece. And I agree that I would want to just totally like shift my focus and work on that and immerse
Hmm.
myself in her world to tell the story. But at the same time, like, you don't know when you're going to get paid. So, of course, like, she needs some sort of advance.
Hmm.
Right.
Maybe she'll negotiate that. Could come up.
Well, it ended up working out that her job will let her, like, she kind of spun it. And I thought that was ballsy. I was like,
So I
okay.
couldn't believe it. When she said it, I was like, why is she telling her this? Frankie's going to sabotage her.
Well, I thought I was shook that she didn't tell her at first. I was like, oh, bit in my stomach. But, like, what do you do? What do you
Yeah.
do? I don't
Hmm.
Yeah.
know.
Right.
That is scary. I mean,
But she learned. If she never met with Evelyn, like if she would have done it before, Frankie would have walked all over her. But the fact that she learned a little,
Mhm.
Evelyn taught her a bit, that's why she was able to negotiate with Frankie.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
told her, she's like, "These are my terms if I do this."
Hmm.
Like now she has leverage. And I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
queen." It's crazy how she rubbed off on her. It's like cool to see their dynamic as well as like inside the story and then be pulled back out. So I thought it was
Hmm.
like creatively done. I'm definitely excited to see where this goes, and I really want to know why she chose Monique. That is like the number one thing for me right
I
now.
need to know. I'm
Yeah.
trying not to Google it, guys. I'm trying not to.
Do, do not Google
I
it.
won't. I
You
won't, but
gave not poor Nata all this shit for reading ahead 2 chapters,
I
and now
know.
you're like,
My grandmother read the book and she said she gets the ending right. So I'm like, we must think the same, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, you said your grandmother liked the book, right?
She did like the book. She said the ending, she expected the ending, but it was still good. So I'm like, I
Ah,
must be right then.
Mm. We'll see.
we'll see how this goes next week. We'll be reading for the next episode, part 3, until chapter 51, and we'll join you guys next week to see how far along we get.
Do you want to plug in our socials, Amanda?
Please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Book Please Podcast. And we're also on Twitter at Book Please Pod. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank
Ciao.
you.